Welcome back to Project Debrief. Are you ready for another deep dive?
I sure am. Always ready to dive into some intriguing mysteries.
Episode 3. And we're tackling a question that's been haunting humankind for, I don't know how long, generations.
It feels like forever, doesn't it?
Are UFOs real?
It's the question that just won't quit.
Yeah.
And this year, we actually got a pretty big new clue to maybe start unpacking that. We got a massive Pentagon report, freshly declassified, takes us through the history of the U.S. government's UFO investigations.
Okay, so we're talking like, secret projects, mysterious sightings, whispers of recovered alien tech.
Mm-hmm.
It's got all the ingredients of a sci-fi blockbuster.
Right.
But we're here to separate fact from fiction.
Exactly. Think of this report as like the ultimate declassified file, a look behind the curtain at how the government has really been handling this whole UFO question, starting all the way back in the 1940s.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then.
All right.
What was the government's first encounter with this whole UFO phenomenon?
Well, picture this. It's post-World War II, tensions are rising, and suddenly people start reporting strange objects in the sky.
Classic.
The Air Force, understandably, got a little nervous.
Yeah.
Enter Project Saucer, one of the very first official investigations into UFO sightings.
Project Saucer, that name alone just screams like 1950s sci-fi.
Right.
So what were they looking at? What kind of reports were they dealing with?
Mainly reports from military pilots and personnel. Makes sense, given the kind of anxieties of the time, Cold War. Are we dealing with some new Soviet tech that we need to worry about?
So right from the start, it was as much about national security as it was about, little green men.
Absolutely. And that focus on potential threats, really continued with Project Cyan, which picked up where Saucer left off in late 1947. But here's where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Some of the folks working on Cyan actually entertained the idea that these UFOs might be extraterrestrial.
Wait, really? The government was actually considering aliens as a possibility back then.
There were definitely some whispers in those early days, although the official stance remained very cautious.
Sure.
But even as they investigated those extraterrestrial theories, that, Cold War backdrop, it loomed large.
Yeah, you have to wonder if some of those early sightings were just fueled by Cold War paranoia, people seeing enemy aircraft in every shadow.
It's certainly possible. But then again, we're also talking about a time of incredible technological advancements, jets, rockets, the dawn of the space age. No wonder people were seeing, strange things in the sky.
Right. It was a time of rapid change and anything seemed possible.
Hmm.
So did they ever find anything truly unexplainable during these early projects?
Not exactly. Project Cyan eventually morphed into Project GRDE, and with that came a shift in focus.
Okay.
Some of the folks who were more open to that alien hypothesis reportedly kind of got moved off the project.
Oh, sounds like someone wanted to shut down the alien talk.
Yeah. Well, the official line was they hadn't found any evidence of a direct threat to national security, but that doesn't mean the investigation stopped. They just took on a different tone.
So GGGE was more about debunking UFO sightings than seriously investigating them.
You could say that. They still looked into hundreds of reports, but the emphasis was on finding earthly explanations like misidentified aircraft or weather phenomena. But even with that shift, there were still some cases that just couldn't be explained away so easily.
Okay, so we've got 3 projects down now. Saucer, Sign, Grudge, all focused on national security, not necessarily aliens, but this is just the beginning, right?
We've barely scratched the surface.
Okay, hit me.
There are so many more projects, so many twists and turns in this story, like Project Twinkle, for example. That one was all about those eerie green fireballs people were seeing in the skies.
Wait, green fireball sounds like something out of a comic book.
Right. Over in New Mexico and Nevada, they even tried to capture them on film. It shows how seriously they were taking some of these reports, even if they weren't publicly acknowledging the possibility of anything, truly extraordinary.
So even while they were downplaying the alien angle, they were still chasing down these strange phenomena.
Yeah, and you start to see this tension emerge between, what's being said publicly and what's happening behind closed doors.
I see. So what happened next? Did things ever escalate beyond these early Air Force investigations?
Oh, absolutely. Things were about to get a whole lot more complicated because in 1952, the CIA enters the picture.
Whoa, the CIA.
Yeah.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
What did they have to do with UFOs?
Well, they were increasingly concerned about the potential impact of these sightings, especially with the Cold War in full swing. Imagine mass panic, Soviet disinformation campaigns. It was a recipe for chaos.
So they weren't necessarily looking for aliens, but trying to manage the fallout from the whole UFO phenomenon.
Exactly. They even assembled a secret panel of scientists led by a physicist named H.P. Robertson to review the evidence and advise the government on how to handle this increasingly public issue.
And this became known as the Robertson Panel.
The Robertson panel, another name that's become kind of legendary in UFO lore.
What did they conclude?
Well, they basically said, don't worry, folks, it's probably just weather balloons and swamp gas.
Okay.
They concluded that most UFO reports could be explained by ordinary means and that there was no evidence of a direct threat to national security.
So another attempt to calm the public down and explain everything away.
You could say that, but even as the Robertson panel was deliberating, the Air Force was gearing up for its most comprehensive UFO investigation yet, Project Blue E-Book, and this one would become a landmark in the history of UFO research.
Project Blue E-Book, now that's a name everyone's heard of. What made it different from the earlier projects?
Well, for one thing, it was the longest-running official investigation, spanning nearly 2 decades. From 1952 to 1969, they collected over 12,000 reports. Imagine the files they must have accumulated.
That's a staggering number. Did they ever find anything truly inexplicable in all those reports?
They had a rigorous system for, categorizing those reports. Most were eventually identified as conventional aircraft, weather balloons, astronomical objects, you name it. But a small percentage remain unexplained even after thorough investigation.
So even Below E-Book, with all its resources and expertise, couldn't explain everything away.
Mm-hmm.
Did those unexplained cases fuel even more speculation about alien visits?
They definitely contributed to the mystery, and even within Below E-Book itself, there were differing opinions about the nature of those unexplained cases. One of the key figures in the project was J. Allen Hynek, a renowned astronomer.
J. Allen Hynek, another big name in UFO history. What was his take on all of this?
Initially, he was pretty skeptical,
Okay.
But as he reviewed those unexplained cases, his views started to change.
So here's where it gets really interesting. Didn't Hynek eventually become one of the leading proponents of serious UFO research?
He did. His experience with Below E-Book, especially those cases that defied conventional explanations, led him to believe that some UFO sightings might represent genuine unknown phenomena, potentially even extraterrestrial.
Wow. So even as the Air Force was trying to debunk UFO claims, one of their own scientific advisors was starting to think there might be something more to it.
It created a fascinating tension within Below E-Book, and it also reflects the ongoing struggle to approach this topic scientifically. How do you study something that seemingly defies our current understanding of the world?
That's a great question, and one that we'll definitely be exploring further as we delve deeper into this report. But for now, it seems like we've reached a kind of pivotal moment in our investigation. We've got the early projects focused on national security, the CIA trying to control the narrative, and then Below E-Book with its massive trove of reports and those intriguing unexplained cases.
And don't forget, J. Allen Hynek, the skeptic turned believer, whose experiences with Below E-Book would really shape the course of UFO research for decades to come.
It's like we're piecing together a giant puzzle, and we've just uncovered some crucial pieces, but there's still so much more to uncover, so many more questions to answer.
Absolutely. The mystery continues. And what's really fascinating is that even after Blue E-Book shuts down in 1969, the government's interest in UFOs, it doesn't just vanish.
You're telling me they were still secretly chasing those flying saucers? Give me the details.
Well, maybe not saucers, but definitely those unexplained aerial phenomena. The report talks about how things got more hush-hush, less about public pronouncements, and more about covert programs.
Okay, so we're going deeper into the shadows now, right? More X-Files than Project Blue E-Book.
Exactly. And one of the most intriguing examples of this shift is the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, better known as ATIP.
ATIP, that's the one that sent shockwaves through the media a few years back. Wasn't that all about the Pentagon investigating UFOs?
Well, officially, their mission was broader, assessing any potential threats from advanced aerospace technology. Think, cutting-edge aircraft, spy drones, that sort of thing.
Right.
But they weren't ruling out the possibility of something more exotic.
So aliens were still on the table. Even if they weren't shouting it from the rooftops, did they find anything concrete?
That's where it gets a little murky. ATIP has become quite controversial, with some claiming they uncovered evidence of truly mind-blowing technology, stuff that seemed to defy our current understanding of physics.
Like alien tech, is that what you're hinting at?
The Pentagon has been pretty tight-lipped about ATIP's findings, but the report does acknowledge that some of the cases they investigated, they remain unexplained.
Okay, so more unanswered questions, more fuel for the conspiracy theorists. But the report doesn't stop there, does it? It brings us right up to the present day.
Absolutely. One of the key takeaways is that the government is still actively investigating UAPs.
Wait, seriously, they've got a whole department dedicated to UFOs in 2024.
They sure do. It's called the All Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, or ARO for short, and their mission is pretty clear: detect, identify, and analyze any UAPs that could pose a threat.
So they're taking this seriously, treating UAPs as a potential national security concern. What kind of tools do they have at their disposal? Are we talking satellites, supercomputers, maybe even men in black?
Think of it as like a high-tech detective agency for the skies.
Okay.
They've got access to radar, satellite imagery, sensor readings from military aircraft, basically anything that can help them paint a picture of what's happening up there.
It's like Bailey book on steroids.
Right.
And with all that firepower, surely they must have found something definitive by now.
Well, here's the thing, and the report is very clear on this. There's still no confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial technology in any official U.S. government investigation.
Okay, so no alien motherships parked in Area 51, but does that mean they've explained away every single sighting?
Not necessarily. The report acknowledges that many cases remain unidentified, often due to lack of data. They just don't have enough information to make a call.
So it's not always aliens, but it's not always case closed either. What about those rumors of crashed UFOs and the government hoarding alien tech? Did they investigate those claims?
They did. ARO actually went digging into those stories, interviewing people who claimed to have, inside knowledge of secret government programs recovering and reverse engineering alien technology.
Hold on, are we talking Roswell here? Did they finally open up about that whole incident?
Well, not specifically about Roswell, but they did look into similar claims.
Okay.
And after all that investigating, they found no evidence to support these theories.
So, another UFO myth busted?
It seems so. The report suggests that many of these stories, they spring from kind of distorted interpretations of real but totally earthly government projects, like Project Mogul, for example.
Will refresh my memory.
It involved high-altitude balloons designed to spy on the Soviets, and guess what? Some of those balloons crashed in the New Mexico desert, sparking all sorts of rumors about recovered alien spacecraft.
Oh, interesting. So maybe some of those iconic UFO tales are just, misunderstood science experiments gone wrong. Kind of takes the mystery out of it, doesn't it?
Maybe, but then there are those stories about UAPs messing with nuclear facilities. That's not exactly your run-of-the-mill weather balloon.
Okay, now that does sound like something straight out of a sci-fi thriller. UAPs and nukes. What's the connection?
The report mentions these claims too, especially from folks who used to work at these facilities. They describe UAPs spotted near nuclear missile silos, even allegedly interfering with operations.
Well, that's creepy. Did ARO find any explanations for those incidents?
That's one of the areas where things are still pretty murky. They're still investigating, but they did notice some interesting kind of timing overlaps.
Like what?
Some of those UAP sightings near nuclear sites happened at the same time as anti-ballistic missile tests.
So maybe it wasn't aliens after all, but top secret military tech being tested. That would make a lot more sense.
It's a possibility, but the key takeaway is that they haven't ruled out other explanations either. We're still in need more data territory.
So even with this massive report, we're still left with more questions than answers. It seems like the truth about UFOs is as slippery as ever. But hey, that's what makes this whole topic so fascinating, right?
Exactly. It challenges our assumptions, our understanding of what's possible, and that's what makes this deep dive so intriguing. It's not just about finding answers, it's about asking the right questions.
Okay, so we've gone through decades of investigations, from Project Saucer to ATIP to ARO. We've seen the government's approach evolve from Cold War paranoia to a more nuanced, data-driven approach. But let's get back to the question that's driving this whole conversation. Did they find any aliens?
The report is pretty definitive on that one. No confirmed evidence of extraterrestrial technology.
Okay, so no smoking gun, no little green men waving from a flying saucer, but they also haven't explained away every single sighting. There are still those cases that make you go, what was that?
Exactly, and that's where things get really interesting, because if most of the UAP reports from the past turned out to have earthly explanations, what does that tell us about the UAPs being reported today?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Are we just misidentifying new, super advanced tech? Or is there something truly extraordinary happening in our skies, something we can't explain with our current understanding of physics and technology?
That's what ARO is trying to figure out. And honestly, that's what makes this whole topic so captivating. It's about pushing the boundaries of knowledge, challenging our assumptions about the universe, and maybe even our place in it.
This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to think about. But before we get too philosophical, let's wrap up this section of our investigation with a quick recap. We've seen the evolution of the government's approach to UAPs, from those early Cold War era projects to the more recent sophisticated investigations by ATIP and now ARO.
And while the report didn't deliver definitive proof of aliens, it did highlight something crucial. The government is taking this seriously. They're investing resources, they're analyzing data, and they're acknowledging that there's a real phenomenon here that deserves our attention.
It's almost like they're saying, we don't know what these things are, but we're going to find out. And that's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely. It means that the story of UFOs is far from over. In fact, it feels like we're just entering a new chapter, one where science and data take center stage, and who knows what we might discover as we continue to explore this fascinating and often baffling mystery.
Okay, so we've gone through, decades of government investigations, from those early projects like Saucer and Sign to the more recent ATIP and ARO. We've seen a real shift in approach from Cold War anxieties to a more data-driven, scientific investigation.
Yeah, it's like we've gone from grainy photos of blurry lights in the sky to sophisticated sensors, multi-agency collaboration, a genuine attempt to understand these phenomena.
But even with all this progress, we're still left with that big question. Are UFOs real? And if so, what are they?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And while this report doesn't give us a definitive answer, it does offer some valuable insights. It shows that the government is taking this seriously, investing resources, and acknowledging that there's a real phenomenon here that deserves our attention.
But why should we care? I mean, beyond the cool factor of, aliens might be real, what's the real significance of all this?
Well, think about it this way. Even if, just a tiny fraction of these UAP reports represent something genuinely unknown, it means there are gaps in our understanding of the universe, things we haven't even begun to grasp.
It's a humbling thought, isn't it?
Yeah.
We like to think we've got it all figured out, but then something like this comes along and shakes up our whole worldview.
Exactly. It reminds us that there's still so much out there to discover, so much we don't know. And that's exciting.
Okay, I can see the kind of scientific appeal, pushing the boundaries of knowledge and all that. But there's also the national security angle to consider, right?
Absolutely. If even some of these UAPs turn out to be, advanced technology from a foreign adversary,
Yeah.
that would have huge implications for our defense capabilities.
Yeah, it's like something out of a spy movie, except it could be real. The idea that someone could be operating in our airspace with technology we can't even detect, that's pretty unnerving.
Yeah, it highlights the importance of continued research and investigation. We need to understand what we're dealing with, whether it's a technological breakthrough from another country or something even more extraordinary.
But let's be honest, the alien question is the one that really captures the imagination. Are we alone in the universe? It's a question that's haunted humankind for centuries.
It has, and it's a question that this report doesn't definitively answer, but it does suggest that we need to keep an open mind, approach this topic with a balance of skepticism and curiosity.
So where do we go from here? The report's out there, the public is buzzing, and we've got ARO diligently working away, trying to make sense of it all.
Yeah, the next step is to see what ARO uncovers. Will they find concrete evidence to explain these phenomena? Will they hit a dead end? Or will they discover something truly groundbreaking that changes our understanding of the universe and our place in it?
It feels like we're on the verge of something big, a new era in our understanding of the unknown. And who knows, maybe this time we'll finally get some answers to those questions that have been lingering for so long.
Until then, keep your eyes on the skies, stay curious, and never stop questioning.
Project Debrief, signing off.
Stay curious and never stop questioning.
Project Debrief, signing off.